One of the topics that has come up oftentimes in these sessions is how will companies stay financially viable throughout the pandemic? People are going through lots of extra effort during this time, so costs are up, but we're also seeing demands or needs for lowering prices. We're seeing people unable to pay their bills, and that puts pressure on the revenue side. So we wanted to take some time and deal directly with that issue, especially in the space of telecommunications. So we're fortunate to have some executives with us from some telecom companies in the Caribbean. We have Helma Etnel. She is the CFO and a member of the board of directors for St. Maarten Telephone Company. We also have Justin Nedd. He's the CEO of GTT Plus in Guyana. And I don't think he's on yet, but we'll also be joined by Damian Blackburn. He's the CEO of Aliv in the Bahamas. Damian, are you on and I've just missed your name? Okay, so I don't think he's with us at the moment, but he'll be joining us soon. So thank you to everybody that's joined us, and thank you especially to Helma and Justin for being with us. So we'll just jump right into it. And we want to focus on the business challenges you face, but let's start where most people start. And that is that we see the governments and the regulators doing a lot, asking companies to lower their prices and to expand service, even to customers that can't pay, and oftentimes the customers can't pay. Tell us what is happening in your countries with respect to those kinds of policies, and what are the financial impacts on your companies. And Helma, let's start with you, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helma Etnel. I'm from St. Maarten, the tiny paradise. You asked so many questions, so I should start with your first question was, what policy and regulators are asking us? Well, as you know, governments, especially in smaller islands, they're asking us to give as much as possible leeway to clients, and where possible, everything for free. But of course, we cannot do all of that, since we need to, of course, turn a bottom line, pay lenders, do investments, and pay staff. So what we are trying to do, while they are asking for all kinds of grants and leeway, what we have done in any event to assist the community and to ease the burden, we have tried to slow the depletion of people that top up credit by opening much more free numbers, not toll-free, free numbers. So if people call the hospital, emergency numbers, the police, their doctors, we have a list of all the doctors, the pharmacies. So all numbers that you need to deal with the corona crisis, we are providing free of charge. So then customers without a balance, or customer and the balance will not be depleted. What we also do is we are distributing more free SIMs. Also, hospital workers got from us credits. We launch all sorts of campaigns to double data. We are not disconnecting residents that have internet access, because we know a lot of people are busy with e-commerce, working from home, e-learning. So we are not disconnecting residential and business customers as much as we can. If you are a big customer, if you are a hotel, we will guide you to pay us online. But customers below a certain revenue bracket, we are not disconnected. We also work with local grocery stores, because we have now we have a lockdown, and deliveries for supermarkets are done, you know, with Domino Pizza, with all kinds of carriers and taxis. And we also make sure that they can provide top up to clients. We also make sure that customers can pay and buy top up online, but for that you need, of course, a credit or a debit card. So we are trying as much as we can to provide convenience and to make sure that customers can still be online. Now, what we are telling government, because we have in St. Maarten a total lockdown for now 3 weeks, which means our store is not open, and that has big financial consequences. Because if people don't pay their bill, their invoices, and you accumulate invoices, the chances are that over time it will be more difficult for them to stay up to date. People are losing their jobs, and maybe in the end they might not be able to pay to pay what is due to us. So we are appealing to governments to make a good balance between health and also socio-economic development, because somewhere somehow you need to be safe, but you also have to find a balance to not kill an economy. So we are working with governments to see at which point in time, and we hope that by next week, that we can open our stores again, apply social distancing, and make sure that the negative effects are then not so severe. But the effects for our company are really severe. Because imagine if the economy is on a standstill, we are a tiny island. We depend on tourism solely as an economic pillar. And if nobody is coming, then you might imagine what the impact will be on the island, on the economy, and then of course on our clients and on us. So we are tightening our belts, but we work closely with government, and we also we will request a package to the regulators that they really also work with us, because we feel that regulators are usually in our islands. The Netherlands, we are part of Netherlands, of Holland. The regulators are so-called rich. They really charge us huge fees. So we will ask them to see if they can also help by lowering concession fees, spectrum fees, and also their own cost of operation, because some fees are based on the cost of operation, to enable all of us to make a contribution. And if we have to pay lower fees, we can also decrease easily the prices to the customers. And we are doing it already without getting a relief. So the financial situation is at this moment not still stable, because I think the effect will be shown a month from now, but we are very concerned.
All right, well, thank you very much. So Justin, same questions. What's going on in Guyana, and how's it affecting your company? Well, you're muted, Justin. There we go.
So thank you and good afternoon. So it's much like Helma said, with some nuances, and some of the things that are unique to Guyana is one that we pretty much have a political crisis in that we had elections on the 2nd of March, and we still don't know the result of that election, as well as oil, newly minted oil producing nation, and the oil for Brent C is less than $20 a barrel. So I think when we did our first lift, it was $55 a barrel, and now, you know, who knows what it'll be the next time. The thing is, with Guyana and some of the challenges we face is the fact that our tax regime is something that we would like to see improved. So we pay 45% corporate tax, as well as 14% VAT. The customers pay 14% VAT on services, including the internet. Of course, with this, because we're a developing nation, unemployment insurance, there's yet to be a stimulus package, and customers are pretty much looking to the operator, to us, to provide free or near free services. Now, that's not practical because we still have bills to pay, we have employees to pay, we have the capacity providers to pay. And despite seeing significant growth in broadband usage, there's not necessarily a corresponding incremental revenue. However, some of the things that we're doing and we have to do in this time, because I think, as Helma said, we're in the early stages of this, and I would say in a month or two, we'll really see money start to dry up. The money will just not be there. But what we've done so far is we went out there and provided free mobile service to healthcare professionals. And they're on the front lines, and we thought it's the least we could do. We are also for our broadband providers. We're also bundling mobile data to get 2 gigs of mobile data with their broadband. And what's interesting is that we've had a mobile wallet for about 8 years, and we see rapid adoption of that wallet now, because people want to stay at home and pretty much pay their bills. But I think that's a plus. But it's a very, very difficult situation, especially for the countries and the operators in the Caribbean, simply because there's no $2 trillion stimulus package or 250 or 350 billion dollars for small business. There's nothing like that, and I'm not even sure if it's on the horizon. So it's a delicate balancing act between or among the shareholders, employees, and customers. So with that, I'll pause, because I know you want to have some follow-on.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to, I'm going to have to wrap up these questions pretty quickly. So I'll ask one more and let you answer that. Then, well, I'm going to ask 2 more questions before we go to our participants, actually. So one of the issues that you've both raised is having that discussion with the government or the regulator about the financial challenges. And I've been in the position of a utility regulator before. I would ask you, let me see your numbers and let's talk about those, and let's talk about how you're managing them. So tell me about those kinds of conversations, because I know that gets uncomfortable if you're the operator to just lay your numbers out, because you don't know how they'll be understood, and maybe other reasons as well. So Helma, tell us about those kinds of conversations. What kind of information should government regulators have, and how best to talk with them about that information?
Well, what we did, we received from government a kind of a survey, a questionnaire, and we filled it out as best as we could. But what we did is we were very transparent. We showed them our numbers in prior years for the same period, and we showed them what happened from March and in April. Even daily revenues, daily collections are really way much lower, more than 50% lower, because if people cannot go on the road to pay the bills or buy top-up, if they are at home all the time, they also use more Wi-Fi, because they have maybe at home, they have their internet connection. So to also lead to less mobile data. And what we also told the policymakers and the government, if you give some education, you can also stop the spread and make sure we can open the economy faster. So we have assisted them also with the educational part. We sent out mass SMS for them with educational messages. We printed big billboards on the roads at strategic locations to inform the public what they should do, and also in several languages, because we have a very mixed population of people of several nationalities. So we produced flyers that were delivered at every household in several languages as well, sponsored by us on behalf of government. And our TV channels have regular infomercials to educate the public. So we hope in that way to also help stop the spread, so that the government can open up the country and do what they have to do. So we showed government our figures. We asked them for support, because we are part of Holland and government is getting some support. But unfortunately, they have decided not to give our company a relief package, because they saw a cash balance, and despite the fact that it is meant for investment, politicians they are busy with so many problems. So they take your sheet with information, they read it briefly and say, oh, they have cash, they are fine, they don't need to get relief. So there's also misinterpretation of the numbers that we provided. And you try to be as complete as you can to be transparent and give info. And the result has been so far for our company that we were not eligible for relief. We are fighting it, and we said we need relief because you don't know how long this will last. We can continue for a couple of months, but we are using now, in essence, if we don't open the store, we are using money meant for investments now to pay for operational expenses. So we told the regulator, also you have to be a bit more understandable when maybe we will be late with certain investments, because we are holding off on investments for now in order to see, you know, how long this thing will last. So everybody tries to sit a bit on their money until they have earned their money. So we also said regulators should also extend the due dates of payments to them and lower the fees. And if everybody's doing that, then I think there is still some hope. So we are very transparent. We share the numbers and we show them what's going on. And we hope that by doing so, a better balance can be made by governments between health and economic, you know, stimulation.
All right, thank you. So Justin, a similar question for you then. What's it like in sharing the numbers with the governments? What kind of numbers need to be shared? How do you best help people to understand what those numbers mean?
Well, you know, I think in fairness, given the state of our economy, I think we're not very high on the priority list. Right now, the health sector is rightly the top priority. I think we will start to come to the fore as more and more people, more and more students try to do homeschool, and we've seen it already. But with respect to sharing information with the government, we have done some outreach explaining the situation, because we see some early indicators. Top up, for example, just sort of fell off the cliff, and I do anticipate in the coming months collections will be a very, very tough pill to swallow. So we're not in a situation like Helma, because we actually use agents for our collections. There have been challenges with that because it's a new thing for people, but that's something that we will correct for April. But what is necessary is for governments to, I believe, in our region, take some time to actually listen. And this is not by any stretch the easiest situation for us to get the attention of politicians and have them listen. So, you know, I think we just have to write it out and do the best we can under the circumstances.
Okay, well, thank you. So,
Can I say
Damian,
something?
I see you're here. So I'd like to ask you a question that Helma and Justin have been discussing, and that is, what are you seeing as the financial impacts on your company, Aliv in the Bahamas, coming out of the pandemic and the different kind of policy and customer reactions to it?
I think it's too early to tell the long-term impact, quite frankly. We only have in the Bahamas, we've been on, I think the first case was confirmed on the 17th of March. And so we've had a month. Pretty much what happened here was nighttime curfew to start with. So 9 to 6, I think it is. Nobody allowed on the streets at all. Then that moved to more stringent measures called the daytime curfew, which you can go out on the daytime curfew to do essential activities, and essential workers can go out, as which of course Aliv is one. But all business premises closed to the general public, apart from some exempted essential properties. So supermarkets are open, for example, in that period. And then we've now done about 9 days, I think it is, in April of full lockdown, which generally starts on Friday night at 9 a.m. and then finishes Monday morning at 6 p.m. On full lockdown, everything is closed except the hospitals, basically. And you're not allowed to actually leave your house. And the definition of your house is you're not allowed to get outside your yard, even. right? So now, obviously, there's different impacts we're seeing. When everything's closed on those lockdowns, the only way we can sell prepay, top-up and plans is really using our electronic or digital means on our app. And then our prepay distribution footprint is about a third of the businesses in the daytime curfew are unable to open at all. So we're reliant on a smaller footprint. And all of that is knocking on at the moment to restricting our prepay revenue in the order of 15 to 25%. And obviously, we are the other big impact in the Bahamas is we're heavily reliant on tourism. We're the largest, for example, the largest cruise ship destination in the world, I think. We have about 5 million passengers coming through Nassau predominantly Nassau every year. Those have obviously stopped. All the hotels are closed and all the employees have been laid off in the tourist industry broadly. And it accounts for approximately 50% of GDP. So there are problems of affordability. There's a willingness to pay, but the ability to pay is reduced on both prepay and postpay. So I think that the financial projections we're doing now are kind of assuming that we're locked down in the same situation for 3 months. We expect it to carry on or get slightly worse than it is now, and then to have a very slow recovery because of the reliance on tourism. So there will be a significant impact to our financial state because we can't get revenues in.
All right, well, thank you. So I've run way over my time for asking questions, so I'm going to start taking questions from the audience. What I'd like for all three of you to think about, this will be a question I'll wrap up with, is what are the things that you're watching that will tell you what the future is for your company when you need to start worrying? Because both of you, both Justin and Damian, talked about it's a little early to tell. Helma's already feeling some of it, maybe more so than you others are. But I'd just like to know that. But that's for later. Let me go to our participants now. Melissa has a question, and a lot of the questions are coming in about business issues in telecommunications. So what Melissa's asking about, she wants to know if you're pivoting to add outgoing telephone calls or Zoom meeting requests to traditional face-to-face sales for customer relationships, retail sales, and business sales. And I'll just open that up and see if any or all of you would like to address that question. This is about how you're doing your marketing, your customer relationships.
All right, so I'll take a first pass. So hi, Melissa. It's been a while. What we're doing is actually really working the phones, working video conferences. I think we were prepared in terms of business continuity. So once things started to go sideways, everybody moved their phones and their computers home. And we're working the list. Of course, nothing really beats face-to-face interaction. So right now, all the sales we're doing is really is primarily essential B2B type stuff, right? Like companies want more phones for their employees to work from home. It's just not the same, but it certainly, I would say, bodes well for the future as a new way of doing business.
All right, thank you. Helma?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, in essence, we see the fact that they're working from home at least as an opportunity. So we are approaching businesses to see if they want to take mass accounts for their employees, and then we can give them an affordable price. What we're also looking at mobile data. We had these devices, these MiFi devices, and usually only business persons have those. So we approach schools to see if they can take, in the areas where the coverage is wonderful, if they can use those for the students that have no internet connectivity at home. We are also calling clients, really, so because our staff works from home. We have a total lockdown for 3 weeks now. So we bought laptops and staff is at home, and they are calling customers one by one and guiding them through the process to be online and to also pay us online through the banks. Because in St. Maarten, you have a culture where people like to come physically in the stores to pay, and then they have a chat and it goes well. But the stores are closed now for 3 weeks. So we are literally guiding them over the phone how to do it. And we are extremely active on Facebook, on Instagram, and with SMS, we are really very active on social media, and it works. So we are using also the youth to help hype up, you know, what is in. We also have, for instance, we used to have Carnaval in St. Maarten in April, not in February like the rest of the world, but in April. We start an online promotion that you from your house have to make a video of, we have a music, a tune, a Carnaval tune, you have to dance and you can get a prize. So we try to involve the public, and by doing that, we also push our information about online payment, about the COVID, how, you know, so we try to educate the communication as much as we can, because we also see an opportunity. Many people now know about e-education, e-commerce picked up because we get deliveries from supermarkets at home. So we see an opportunity that finally that smart city concept, that it might start to live in the community. So I see that as an opportunity for our company to at least earn some money also further down the road.
All right, well, thank you. So we have another question from Sydney. Sydney has two, but let me go to the first one of those. And he's wondering if you're making use of internet exchanges as the Internet Society has recommended to reduce costs. And Damian, I'd like to see, is that something that Aliv is doing?
To clarify, is that what's termed a local IXP? Could you just clarify?
City didn't really specify that, but you can answer it either way. Okay,
so there is no local IXP or internet exchange in the Bahamas. That's a project that the regulator has been looking at a while. There's pros and cons of doing it. We are, however, because we're so close to Florida in the Bahamas, there is the putting an IXP here has limited cost saving benefits, we believe, but there are some reasons to do it which are being explored.
Okay.
In St. Maarten, we have a internet exchange for many years now. I think we were one of the first in the Caribbean, and we got it funded from funds in the Netherlands. And the intention was to have, of course, the traffic between the Caribbean, not to go via the States, but to stay, you know, in the Caribbean. So you need less bandwidth to the USA. Now, we have started this wonderful initiative, and I think a few islands have the same. What we should do and what we didn't do as telcos is to connect these exchanges with each other, so that you can really have the benefit of staying with traffic in the Caribbean, that you stay within the Caribbean and you don't go all the way to the USA and back. So we started, I think, many years ago, but we didn't focus on completing it to connect with more exchanges. So in essence, the real benefit is still in the making.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. So let me go to Sydney's second question. And it's something you've already addressed, Helma. So let me just ask Justin or Damian if they have thoughts. And this is, what have you been doing, or have you been able to do with local banks to change how customers might be able to pay their bills? Is that an option in any of your situations?
Yeah, so I'm happy to take that one first. We already had all banks, you could pay at all banks either over the counter or on their online tools. So I think there's 6 banks in the Bahamas that we take post-pay payments from. There is the other real focus for us has been to get as many electronic means of payment, either for prepay or post-pay, up and running as quickly as possible. We already had relaunched the My Aliv app, and we are doing the same thing as dialing out to customers, as was described earlier, to talk the customer through. So we have our sales team, because our stores are closed, literally dialing out one by one to the customers to get them to use the app and then use a credit or debit card. There is also in the Bahamas 3 or 4 e-wallet solutions that are in their infancy, and we have been working with them to help them get live, because we see that as a short and long-term answer to payments.
All right, thank you. Justin, what about in your situation?
Yeah, so in Guyana, we have a subsidiary that does the e-wallet. So as I said earlier, that is quickly gaining traction. So much so that for years we have reached out to the banks and asked them to integrate, but that didn't work. What we're seeing now is that our customers are asking the banks to integrate. So what we haven't done in almost a decade, we're going to achieve in a matter of weeks. And there's also the option of paying at the bank or multiple banks. I think we've also got 5 or 6. The challenge with that is that those payments are not real time. With our e-wallet, it is real time, and the real time is important simply because in today's world, you know, for many of us who've been in telco for a couple of decades, you would remember when your landline was disconnected for a day. Well, okay, I could tolerate that. You know, disconnection of the internet for 10 minutes is absolutely unacceptable, and that could get you a lynching on social media. So our e-wallet is real time, and looking to do more and more integration. So this crisis, I mean, it's terrible, but it certainly presents some opportunity for us to accelerate the transition to more digital way of living.
All right, well, let me just take off from where you just ended there, Justin. And this is a question from Alaji. My apologies if I mispronounced the name, and it's augmented a little bit by Sydney. So the question in general is, you know, is there a silver lining to any of this? Part of that, and you could take it either way you would like, is what do you see as kind of the changes that will stick with us? The changes in demand for broadband, how you provide it, how you engage with customers for their bills. What do you see as silver linings? And then as part of that as well, what are the changes that you think are going to stick after this is all done? Let me start with Damian with that, please.
I think that it's definitely speeding up the digital transformation in all ways. We've always had a vision. We're a new company, so we only launched 3 or 4 years ago. We have a program called Aliv Creates, and we've always seen we've only ever given smartphones to customers. So basically, the world is in the palm of your hand has always been our vision, and I see that I see a day soon where the majority of prepaid customers on our base will be using our app. We will be educating our customers in the app through engaging things about our product or educating them how to use the phone. We have a suite of solutions that we've built through this Aliv Creates program. So, for example, when tourism does start, we have something called Aliv Discover, which is a virtual reality map and tour guide of downtown Nassau. We're extending that at the moment. We have a loyalty program which is completely mobile centric called The List, and we're working on that for version 2. As soon as we get free and all the stores are open, that's going to give sort of online or mobile centric advertising to local businesses, you know, that's very personalized. So these kinds of things I see speeding up. I see working from home for ourselves and a lot of companies becoming more the norm rather than the exception. So those are probably the really big ones.
Okay, Justin, you had alluded to this issue. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in addition to what Damian said, and I'll circle back to elaborate on some of what he said. For us in Guyana, big thing is people will now really understand what the internet means to them. It's more than just go on Instagram or Facebook. And what it will bring about is really more dialogue, more deeper conversations with politicians and regulators in shaping policy to enhance the richness and the reach of broadband in the country. I think we've sort of shied away from that for a long time, but this is pretty much a watershed moment. The work from home presents a wonderful opportunity that we see, because we have a call center of 140 or 150 agents, and 70 to 80% of them are actually taking calls from home, and customers are none the wiser. So one of the challenges we faced was the ability to expand the call center because of limited real estate. Well, guess what? Now, if we have 100 agents working from home, it's a matter of hiring, right? And doing home inspections and making sure that they live in an area that has a broadband to facilitate it. And it gives us the opportunity to get deeper into communities to provide employment in areas where we traditionally couldn't, simply because of geography. So, I see some great opportunities for us to really jump at from this crisis.
All right, absolutely. Very interested in what you said about people discovering how important these broadband services are. We at the Research Center here just released a paper last night where we looked at customers in the US and found out the value that they place on their internet services increased by 6-fold in March. Yeah. So it's indeed an awakening time for people. That's a good thought. Helma, what are your thoughts on this issue of what I was asking Justin and Damian about? I won't try to repeat it again.
Okay, as they said, to add to what they said, I see it at the same time as an opportunity for islands like ours to also modernize. People will realize they have to really go paperless, be more in the cloud, allow remote working. And what you get is that e-commerce starts to live now. People will start to honestly use a lot of smart things. So our concept was to push smart homes, the smart city concept, deploy broadband. And the point is, although you do that, sometimes people use it still for simple things. So I hope now that by doing business online, by being on the web all the time, that we also as a Caribbean nation use the opportunity that your physical borders no longer exist. So entrepreneurs can now offer their services really, I hope now, also online, because everybody is now online. You're on your home. The only thing you can do is look at your phone or your PC. So I really hope that that switch that we were aiming for all the time with broadband, that will come now. What we also need as a telco is also in the Caribbean, we need better financing facilities, because in the bigger, like in the USA and Europe, you have like good options for fiber to the home with loans of 30 years with a long stretch, because they know that the return on investment is low in the first few years. In the Caribbean, we very often still have the traditional forms of financing. So I will get loans and have to pay it back in 10 to 15 years. So we also need banks to go with us in order to accelerate, honestly, this broadband and smart city concept, so that in the Caribbean, honestly, we can be at the same level playing field as the communities in the USA and Europe and everywhere. So I see it as a kind of a form of globalization from your home. So I really hope that besides the negative impact, that also the positive side of a modern eco-society, that will really help to also combat poverty. So I am also optimistic in that regard.
All right, well, very good, appreciate that. You started taking us back to the financial issues, and David Cox asked about those directly. He would like to know what the your different companies are doing to manage their cash outflows. We've talked about the effects on cash coming in. What are you doing managing cash going out so that you can stay open and continue to provide service? Let's start with Damian on that, please.
I mean, the traditional ways of managing cash flow, we have very supportive vendors. On the, our big vendors would be the network vendors, obviously, and the and devices. So we start, and then obviously from locally, it would be the bills that we have to pay to bigger vendors locally, and so it's kind of asking them for help. Obviously, it's tough for them, and so that's kind of a delicate balancing exercise. We have had to lay some staff off, but the primary reason wasn't really to try and save cost. For us, it was the fact that we just couldn't redeploy some of the teams that traditionally work in serving the customer in a more physical way. We did redeploy most of our sales teams into things like making calls to educate customers about the app and the virtual customer care. We have got 200% probably of what we had before in terms of calls into the call center, as you'd imagine, with the stores closed. But there's a limit to what you can do. But in terms of cost, it's just traditional management. We obviously we've got supportive shareholders and our financiers, and obviously we look to them as well.
Okay, Justin.
Right. So unlike Damian, we took a bit of an untraditional approach. We started with ourselves. So from the executives, we took pay cuts, much to the disappointment of my wife. But at least she doesn't have to spend as much time on Amazon now.
That's very generous of you.
I sincerely hope that she's not on this Zoom. But we took pay cuts first, and then we looked to vendors. The challenge with that is, taking a pay cut. We laughed about it, but it's not easy. So the philosophy behind that was, look, we close our stores. We could lay the people off, but we don't have unemployment insurance. So for most of the staff, they took 10%. Some of the lower level staff, we'll make it right with them. And the executives, of course, they get special treatment, so they get more than 10%. So that we don't have to lay anybody off. And the folks that are not working, and we try to repurpose, like Damian, as many staff as possible to different roles. But if there isn't anything, what we did is we paid them 60% of their salary. It's not, I can't say it's popular, because of course the media does interesting things. So they say, oh well, we cutting the staff salary and we're still making a ton of money, and they're sure that the executives are probably getting bonuses like Disney, but that's neither the reality for Disney nor us. I'm pretty sure. So and some of the vendors have been very, very accommodating. But what we're setting out to do, because staff costs are such a significant part of our P&L, we are not going to laying off staff is the very last thing that we will do.
Okay. All right. Helma, you've already talked about this issue quite a bit. But is there anything you would add on how you're managing, making sure that you don't have too much cash going out compared to what you have coming in?
So what we are doing, I hope that there is no regulator on this call. We are especially delaying the payment to the regulator. We are also trying to talk to banks because in our country, many banks are giving leniency and moratorium on loan repayments. We also put a brake on new projects, new investment projects that are not necessarily urgently needed. And we made several projections with several scenarios, assuming COVID will last 3 months, 6 months, you know. We looked at those scenarios, and we are also going to negotiate with the unions, because if this thing will last longer, then we have to talk to the unions so that everybody, just like how Justin said, everybody has to take some pain. We are going also to see how we can collectively also deliver, you know, give in some of our benefits, because our payroll is one of the major expenses in our books. So we are looking at CLA negotiations. Unions are not easy on St. Maarten because the Dutch law is very protective towards staff, which is good, employees. So we will have a tough time, but we have several scenarios that I will present next week to my supervisory board and shareholder, where I indicated at which moment in time we have to take certain actions. So we are preparing for the worst. But employee effect will be for last. We hope that it can only be less benefits, but not layoffs as yet.
Can I just clarify one thing on layoffs in Aliv, if that's okay?
Yeah.
We did lay them off. That there is a government protection scheme here where they will qualify for 50% of their salary, and the executives took voluntary pay cuts to fund topping up that amount for those teams. So that's how we dealt with it in a compassionate way.
All right, very good. Thank you for adding to that. So we have a question from Teresa Wankin. She is wondering, back to the payment systems, if there's any thought of having a regional platform for people to pay their bills. I'll just open that up to any of you. Have any of you had discussions on that?
Can I speak?
Go on.
There is a regional platform, I think supported by Kanto, and people can buy top-up online with pre-nations. It works wonderfully. So I think that also to support our own Kanto, I appeal to anybody to really use prepay nation, or even though you have your own apps and your own, you know, way of that people can buy top-up online. If you also use the Prepay Nation app, you also support a regional effort and you support Kanto to still exist. So I would vouch that all operators that are not using it yet, to please do that. It is very affordable, it is convenient, and we help a Caribbean initiative. So we are also using Prepay Nation besides our own online possibilities.
All right, very good. Justin or Damian?
I'm happy to answer from an M wallet or an e wallet perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the people who helped establish the largest one in the region, which is Mon Cash in Haiti. The Bahamas has got 3 local initiatives on e-wallets. If there's any time in history when a regional wallet platform could occur, it's now. But to my knowledge, there isn't anything. And I think that is largely to do with the fact that it is having pursued in another life the dream of getting M-Wallet solutions live in the region, is largely to do with each individual country has slightly different regulatory regime, so it makes you have to bespoke a lot the solution for each territory, which is fair enough because each territory has my knowledge of the Caribbean is only 12 years old, but it is very different to one another. So it does make sense that the regulatory regime is different in each place, but it is difficult to uniform the system.
All right, well, thank you for that. So Justin, I want to change topics just a little bit. This is a question from Kathleen, and she's asking about cooperating with governments for issues of e-learning, telemedicine, especially in unserved or underserved areas. What are your experiences with that?
So in Guyana specifically, I know individuals, on the individual basis, there has been much discussion. But like I said earlier, I think this is a great opportunity for us to take a hard look at policy and how we approach the first of all, the reach of broadband, and then secondly, the richness, and richness in terms of speed, right, or throughput. I don't know if now is the right timing, as in right now, because given that we are in a crisis situation, everybody will be looking out for number one, and you know, my team and I talk about it all the time. You actually have to make a very deliberate effort to resist the urge to be selfish. So perhaps those are conversations that we need to raise coming out of this. Those are conversations that are needed. I think we are already seeing, and history will show, that healthcare in our region is neither adequate nor innovative. And given that we don't have the capital to fund traditional healthcare, we've got to be innovative very quickly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Helma or Damian, either one of you want to add to that?
Well, I can. In St. Maarten, especially, we are a small island, so we don't have all the medical specialists on the island. So a lot of patients in St. Maarten are flown to other islands like Curacao, to Colombia, to Santo Domingo for medical treatment, which is very bad because sometimes they are severely ill for months and are away from their families to be treated. It also is a huge cost on the government. So we have tried in the past, and we have funded the e-health system so that they can be in contact with doctors abroad. But for one way or the other, the medical center who had that facility paid by us used it during the launch, and thereafter they didn't use it. So we see now that it becomes a problem to travel and to send patients abroad, that we might again knock on their doors and say, hello, we have the infrastructure, it is now outdated, but everything is ready there. Maybe now we can again start to make use of this wonderful opportunity to save lives. So we don't have remote areas like Guyana and Trinidad, but we have patients that are going away all the time. So we see it as an opportunity now to, sometimes you need to be in a bad shape to get, you know, for people to wake up. So now that there's no flights to catch, we hope that now the medical center and government will see what our company was trying to teach them for many years, that this thing is really needed. So I'm happy that this will maybe help.
All right, very good.
So
Yes,
just in Bahamas, Aliv's always partnered very closely with the government. We've been invited to and have spoken to both ministers of health and education about various ways we can assist. All of the quick win things that you would imagine have occurred. So we've supplied hotlines to the ministries. We've said video conferencing. We are now into deeper conversations about the use of technology. The one thing I would say is that the debate needs to be led by the public authorities, not by the telecom companies. And we can provide solutions to the governments around things like COVID-19 tracing, or even quarantine solutions, or patient care solutions. But ultimately, it's a public health decision which solutions are deployed. Those conversations often take a while, and there's a weighing up of a balance of risk. So we're happy to be invited to suggest solutions, but we're also not disappointed when the public health authorities or the education authorities decide to go in different directions.
All right, well, thank you all very much for that. So one more question. that I have. There are two more on the chat. I'm going to just go to one of them, and it's from Faye Samuels. Faye asks about paperwork reduction, that there are traditions, she says, in the Caribbean of having lots of paperwork, but you have know your customer requirements and such that you have to follow, but paperwork's pretty hard right now. So what kinds of things are you doing right now in terms of reducing the physical paperwork? I'll just open that up to anyone.
So in Guyana, and I don't know how far advanced the rest of the region is, but we don't have anything that is like the e-sign act in the US. But what we've done is sort of push the envelope a bit in terms of pushing people online, and sort of not going around the e-sign type thing, getting agreement without necessarily a signature until we could get them face to face. I am very, very happy that we did that a couple of years ago, because I don't know if we hadn't, what we do right now. So all our forms are online, and it was only three years ago these were all paper forms. If that was the case, we'd be crippled. So again, if we as a region don't come out of this with a list of things that we need to reform really quickly, then I don't know what will change us. Like, this is a great opportunity for us to not necessarily be harmonized, but certainly coordinated to work on modernizing the region.
Okay. All right, Helma or Damian, anything to add to that?
Well, unfortunately, we have forms online, but we still require physical signature of customers. Mm-hmm. So that step with e-signatures, we don't have implemented yet. So we are a step backwards in that regard. What we do, however, is people can print the form online, submit it, but when they come, they are required to sign, and then we scan it. So maybe we can, we need to do something more to also accept e-signatures, but we are not there yet.
All right.
So we have the opposite. We started this business 5 years ago. My vision was that the way we work should reflect the vision of what we were doing. So I didn't let any paperwork anywhere near the stores.
Wonderful.
And everything is done electronically. When I arrived, everybody said that would not be possible here neither. And it takes firm leadership, is what I will say, mm-hmm. to make any vision happen, and mm-hmm. Everything can be achieved. Interestingly, we are having to concentrate internally at the moment on removing the bits of paper that have crept in. We don't have them. We don't have them everywhere. We do tend to do everything electronically, but paper has crept in because the outside world comes inside your office before you know it, if you let it. Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, I've taken up all of our time now, and my apologies to the audience. Typically, we carve out time for the audience to talk amongst itself on these. This is my first time with 3 people to be interviewed, and I just didn't manage the time very well. I do have just as a very quick kind of go around the room here question for you that I'd warned you about before, but I'm going to change it just a little bit. So for each of you, I'd like to know what's the most important thing, or one of the most important metrics that you're watching, that you watch to know how things are going to be going. What's at least one thing that you're paying attention to so you can know how things will be going in the future? Justin, let me start with you. What's that one thing?
Yeah, we don't have a purchasing managers index in Guyana. So I make up one just asking people around how are things going from different sectors, from the supermarkets right through to retail. I think right now, if I had to compile that index, it would be in the teens, which is problematic, right? Because it certainly signals significant contraction, and combining that with our collections. So what we did, and April is already the first month of COVID mania in Guyana. So we're looking at collections day by day against a normal month and sort of graphing that. And you see the rate is a lot slower in collections. So for May, we will put that against April, and as that starts to drop below a level of comfort, we will have to use some levers to stay in business and keep customers connected.
All right, so very good. So payments and good CEO practice, walking around listening to people. Helma, yeah, Justin gave us two. Can you give us one that is important on your list?
Yes. What I watch every day is collections and revenue. And when I look at the bigger picture for my projected future, I look at employment, because those two factors determine the economy, how the economy is recovering.
Okay, great. Thank you. Damian, what about you?
It's the same thing I look at every day when we've not got COVID-19, and that is the daily prepay or hourly or 2 hourly prepay revenue trends, or the top-up trends as they're known. We re-engineered prepay in the Bahamas so that most of the revenue is actually plans bought at the point of sale now. So we sell plans, not top-up, but it's revenues that we're taking on prepay customers. And then within that, my biggest focus at the moment, which I would be looking at that anyway every day, my biggest focus at the moment is the percentage that we're taking in every day using our app or via the call center as we drive to the magic 50%.
All right, well, thank you all three very much. I really appreciate your taking your time. A CFO's, a CEO's time is incredibly valuable, and you've been generous in sharing it with everyone in our audience. And thank the audience also for being here. Sam, I'm going to turn